Even when I don't feel like moving, I can't help it. I gotta.
Just
It's like
gotta
I'm
get going.
trying. I'm resisting, and it's I have to move to the song. Ah, what's up,
All right,
everybody?
we're here. How are you? We're here. We're finally. It's good. It's all good.
We're
Tammy,
good.
how are you doing tonight?
Me?
Are you muted? Are you? We can't hear you.
Um,
Let's
Now we
try
hear
that
you.
one again.
Let's try that one again. Tammy, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. So happy to be here with you guys.
Good. So glad that you're here. We had a little technical difficulty getting on and up and running and going, but that's all good. We're gonna get it going now and talk. So this is we've been talking about doing this for a long time and trying to get this podcast up and running and me interview you and all that. So this is going to be a good one because we're going to talk about our pets and how much we love them. So Tammy, first and foremost, introduce yourself.
So I'm Tammy Holzbach. I live in Chesterfield, Virginia. Just I work in medical billing full time, and I just went through a very harsh experience about 6 years ago, and it was very traumatic for me when I lost my pet that I had raised for 14 and a half years. And so I decided to write a little self-help book on pet grief, and it was just something that I wanted to do to just kind of help other people that was experiencing the things that I felt. And it was just something that I decided to do it and did it, and it's been a blessing. It's been a true blessing for me to kind of heal, but then to also to feel like I put something out there that could help other people heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love our pets, right? We just
That's
do. It's something that whether it's a dog or a cat or a fish or you name it, people love their animals, and
right.
so we get this bond and this connection to them, and there's it's special. And so, why do you think that's so special?
You know, I've always said that, especially with dogs, but really with any pet that we have, whether they're cats or any pets, I've always said that to me they're an unconditional sign of love from God. Like when my faith is very much important to me. So when I think about how much we're loved by God, I think about, especially with a dog, like they're so unconditional. Like you come home every night and they're just there to love you, and they're there to not judge you and to give you that comfort in all seasons of your life, and in every moments of your life. And so for me, I feel like that, especially when there's those certain pets that we're able to bond with and carry that relationship with, I truly feel like it's just one of the most beautiful experiences of what unconditional love truly is in any form that we can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so you wrote a book, and let's talk about the book right off the bat. And Andy, if you'll show that first slide, we have a picture of the book, and I'm holding the book here. I'll show you here. There it is. Love on Pause. So talk about the book and talk about your dog. First, introduce your dog. How about that? And then we'll talk about a little bit about the book.
So the book that I wrote, Love on Pause, it is started off is because of my dog Shemp. I had him since he was 8 weeks old, and then we, like I said, we had him for 14 and a half years. And
Mhm.
so he was a border collie lab mix. So he was actually my first dog as an adult. I had a childhood dog growing up. I didn't get to experience seeing my childhood dog pass away because my
Mhm.
father, when our dog got older and was at that stage, my dad didn't want us, me and my sister, to see him pass away. So he took him to a friend of his house that was on a farm. And so he knew that he was aging, and he thought he was protecting us from not experiencing that.
Yeah.
And so Shemp was actually my first dog as an adult. Like he was the first one that I raised and took care of. And so it was truly my first experience as an adult with what it takes to take care of your pet and to do everything that you would have to do for them.
Hmm. Yeah. And you had a special bond with Shemp. You
We
want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So here's a little of my experience. So I got Shemp with my ex-husband, and I got him when he was 8 weeks old for my stepson. And so after about 6 months, my ex-husband didn't want to keep him. He decided he was no longer a dog person and he wanted to get rid of him. And I feel very strong when you get a pet, you keep it. You don't get rid of it just because you're tired or you're not like into that taking care of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, absolutely not. Like, we are not getting rid of this dog. And so I kept him and took care of him. And so I went through a really bad experience with my ex husband. He unfortunately got addicted to some pain medication and had some issues. And it created a very unfortunate situation. And so Chip then became my protector. I protected him, he protected me. He became that when I would come home in a toxic situation, he became my happy place to be at and to be with. And so that was one of the things that for Shimp and I that it created such a strong bond for him and I, because when you're going through the other things you go through in life, to be able to have that unconditional love from your pet that makes each day worth it, then that's kind of how we created that bond going forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, yeah, so y'all grew up together in a sense for a good period of time.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes that if you talk about well, we'll get into this service dogs and all that. We'll talk about that a little bit later because Doc has one. But every dog has that ability to just feel your need. To really touch into your emotions, and they can. I'm such a believer that they know when you're happy, they know when you're sad, they know they can feel it. It's one of the most amazing things that I think that God put out there is the ability for an animal to know what's going on with you.
Mhm. Absolutely. I agree with all of those things. And like that was one of the things that Shimp did. Like he could sense like if I was happy or sad, like he knew exactly what I needed to like, he would come in there and like if I was, really sad about something, he would literally push my head up just for me to rub him and everything. Or he'd come sit with me and stuff. Or like if you weren't feeling good, he'd come lay beside you knowing that you were just not feeling good. So I definitely have always felt that they're created to give us these emotional things that we as humans need, and sometimes we don't get from other humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I totally agree. So what led you to write this book? Is the first question I have for you. Like, why sit down and why put pen to paper and write this book?
So what happened is when I had to actually make that decision to put Shimp to sleep. And it was such a hard decision for me, and I had prayed and prayed over it, and I kept thinking in my head, I'm not going to have to do this. He's just going to go naturally, and it'll be so much easier for me not to have to make that decision. And so I unfortunately had to make that decision, and it broke my heart. It literally, I felt so horrible. I felt like, to be honest with you, I felt like I was killing my dog. And for someone who has the faith, we're taught you don't kill, you don't do things. So it was a big struggle for me to, even with my dog, feel like I was doing something I shouldn't be. And
Yeah,
so when I lost him, it was honestly like when my grandmother was sick, she had been sick for 2 years off and on, in and out of the hospital. And I can remember praying, God, please take her. Don't let her suffer. Like, please just take her. And I wanted her to be out of the pain. But with my dog, I couldn't do that. Like, I wanted to hold on to him. I didn't want him to leave me. And so I just remember that after we lost him, and it was very traumatic for me, and I was grieving him so much. I remember just saying, one day I'm going to write a book. And so I was blessed. A lady that I didn't even know, she gifted me this course with an actor named Colin Egglesfield. And so he does an Inspire course. And within that Inspire course, it's about building you up to go after your dreams and to do the things that you're afraid to do. And so my book was one of them. And I thought, well, I'm not an author by no means. I'm like, but why not? Like, why is it something that I'm wishing to do, to want to put out there, to maybe give somebody else an insight of what their grief is and how they're feeling? I'm like, so why can't I do that? Like, why do I have to just wish for it? So I just decided, you know what? If someone else can do it, you can do it. So I did it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And so, um, you know, Shimp's gonna pass away, and Shimp did pass away. And so this is kind of a book where you reflect on it and you take people through the story of your relationship. So talk a little bit about that and the different chapters and the different things that you talk about in the book.
Yeah, so I wrote it. So a little history on the book. So the front cover, I know you have a picture, I think, on, but the front cover of it is actually the last day that we had Shimp. I took a picture of my husband, and I actually had gotten remarried, and my husband that I'm with now had been with Shimp for like 12 years of the last part of his life. So he pretty much was there for the most part, other than the first 2 years. And so, but Shimp and him was very close. They had a very close bond. And so the last day that we had him, I had taken a picture of him, and with us holding his paw. So this is actually, the cover is actually a copy of that. And then I didn't want it to be a big book, because I wanted it to be, if you were going to be on a plane ride or somewhere, that was a quick pick-me-up read, something that, because obviously when you're going through grief of losing your pet, it's not something you want to drag out and read like a big book on. And so I wanted it to be something like a kind of quick little thing. And so I made it 14 chapters, because he was 14 and a half. And then we were able to charge $14.50. So everything was kind of symbolic about the book. Any of the proceeds it's been sold in 7 countries, and any of the proceeds that I get from my book will never go for me. It'll always give back to the animals, whether it's at the shelters or if someone can't pay for their vet bill or their medicine. So I never want any proceeds from the sale of the book. And I wrote it so that as you're reading the chapters, it's kind of going through the stages of like when they're a puppy and the things that you kind of go through. So it's kind of like a little short version of little things that you go through. But then it comes to that hard chapter where it is when they're getting older and they're starting to slow down and they're no longer that young, youthful puppy, and you're having to, it's kind of like when we get them, like they're puppies, we take care of them. Then they reach that age to where they kind of like take care of us, like they know the things about us. But then they revert back to getting older and they can't run, they can't play, they can't do the things they used to. So now we're back to taking care of them. And I've had a lot of reviews, and a lot of people say that when they read it, one, they could feel their own story in it with their pets, but it also reminded them of their relationships with people. And that was my whole objective. My whole objective was to just even if it was one person who read it and took something away from it, that was the only thing I wanted. Was I just wanted it to have someone connect with it, with their heart and their story, so that it wasn't necessarily my story, but it was something that they could reflect on from theirs.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. If you go to the next slide there, Doc, and we'll do that. So this is my dog, Cooper,
Oh,
and so we had met a little bit. Cooper was still alive, but he was when we first started talking, he was kind of going downhill and not doing very well. And so we got Cooper back in 2008. So he was coming up. He was 15 years old at this point, and at the point one on the left. He's doing fine on the one on the left. Just he's riding there in my Forerunner and all that with me. And he did not like car rides. I was not happy about it. But this dog was our everything in our family. I mean, truly, he was our everything. I mean, we loved this dog. He was my son's best friend. I mean, he came into our lives when we had just transitioned out of the military, a military town, and came to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So, it wasn't always an easy transition for my son at the time, sixth grade, making new friends, and my daughters and everybody. And that's when we got Cooper. So we got him at a time that he was very needed, for our family. Um, and he's a Maltipoo, just a special, great dog. Always just the best demeanor, laid back. Well, not when he was a little bitty puppy. He was, he's a jumper. He was pretty wild. But just a good dog, though. Never really did anything bad. Um, and so you're right. You want to hold on. You just want to hold on. And our vet that we had was just wonderful. They were a special vet. They did everything. They loved Cooper. They treated him good, um, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, are we doing this for ourselves, or are we, keeping him around? And so the picture on the right, he looks actually pretty good, right? I mean,
yeah,
I would look at that picture and say, yeah, he looks all right. Well, that's the morning that I put him down, and my kids were gone. They were all off. My son lives in Charlotte. My daughters at school. Both my daughters are at school, and my wife was at work, and so I was the one who went and took Cooper. But he had been standing in that spot right there without moving for about 5 minutes. He couldn't walk, couldn't move, and he had fallen over twice. And stood him back up, and he looks good. I mean, he doesn't look bad. And I remember one of my good friends, the guy that I fly the helicopter with at Penske, said they're going to be looking at you, wagging their tail the day that you're taking them and you're putting them down, because they still love you and you still make them happy. And I'm glad he said that to me, because that's exactly how it was. He couldn't move. He couldn't eat. He hadn't eaten for days, wasn't drinking water. I would have to pick him up, take him outside. If he used the bathroom, he'd use it and he'd go back in. He might take a couple of sips of water, and then I do that. But you know what? This was a hard thing. I couldn't stay in the room. Just could not do it. I couldn't stay in the room when they were putting him to sleep. I worked in a vet when I was in college for about a week. I only made it a week because I couldn't take watching them put dogs down. I
yeah,
just couldn't. It just destroyed me. And so they were gracious. We said goodbye, and they took him, and I left. Knowing, and they called me and said, okay, he's gone. It was brutal. It is to this day one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. I've told my kids and my wife, I said it affected me so much more than I ever thought it would. I thought, yeah, okay, it's end of life. He's going to be okay. But it was brutal. To
yeah,
this day, is brutal. You know, to not have those little foot, paws hitting in the house, and and to see him and be there, and that's it's been a few months now, but
yeah.
yeah, that's Cooper, and he's dearly, dearly, dearly missed for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because the day that Chimpy passed away, the day that we had to put him to sleep, he was so like he couldn't move, like he was like literally like he couldn't get up, he couldn't move or anything. And so but that day he looked so good and we were laying on the floor and as we were taking pictures with him, it was like he leaned his head to me when we took a picture. Then he leaned his head to my husband, and it was almost like he was like giving us that one last best day with him.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though it was like, and I even questioned, and I even told my husband, I was like, he's doing so much better today. Like, are you sure this is the right thing? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, but then I think it goes back to what you say. Like they don't want to cause us that. Like they love us so much that they don't want to cause us that pain. So I
Yeah.
think I've always heard that dogs will hide their pain or they'll
Yep.
go and look away from their owners and stuff because they don't want you to see them in pain. And so that was, and another thing, like, so we actually had the person, like our vet loved Chimp so much. And she'd even told me that it was going to break her heart to have to put Chimp to sleep. And so I felt like I couldn't do that to her. And
Yeah.
so I had someone come to our house that didn't know us. And so they came to the house and they did it in our home because he was about 9, like at his strongest, he was like 104 pounds. And then when he passed away, he was probably about 95 pounds.
Yeah.
And he was a big dog. And so anyway, so they came to the house. And I tell you, one of the things that I think my heart will never let go of is that when they gave him, when we were laying there, like when the lady came in and we had to start administering the 2 shots and stuff, I had said a prayer before we did anything. And my husband, we had given him, he loved Frosty Paws. So we gave him the Frosty Paws. So he's literally licking his Frosty Paws while we're doing everything we have to do. And Chimp was, 14 and a half years old. Like he was an old dog, his body was old and his fur was not fluffy like a puppy. But one of the things that always has given me so much peace was the minute, like after he passed and we were holding him, I remember this sensation. His whole body just felt like healthy, like a puppy. His fur felt fluffy. It was almost like when he passed away, there was a transformation of not being old and sick, but being back to being youthful as a puppy. And I think being that was my first experience and to feel that and to see, like, just to have that, it was like, that gives me some comfort as well, even in that hard moment.
Yeah. I wanted to make this point too, because Cooper used to sleep on my side of the bed. He slept on a pillow right beside my bed. And I can tell you for days and days and really weeks, actually, I had hoped that I would wake up and he would be gone. He would be dead, that he would have died naturally. Right. And I remember waking up and he really was not doing well. And I remember waking up that morning and just looking over at him, and I just see him like look up at me, and I'm like, oh, because I did not want that day to come, but it had gotten to the point that it needed to be done. And again, it's life. It's life, no matter if you're human, no matter if you're a dog, but it's hard when it is your pet. I will tell you, it's very hard. Now, I want to talk about some good things, great things about dogs. And this might be the hardest part of the show because we're getting ready to go to the next slide. And Andy's pretty quiet here. I hadn't talked much during this show, and he normally won't be quiet. Let's talk about what this dog means to you, Andy.
I hope, Tammy, that you take this the way I mean it. I hate this topic. I mean, I'm over here tearing up already,
I know.
But This dog has saved my life. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And
We know what you feel.
yeah, and Andy, listen, Andy got this dog at a tough time. And Andy's a veteran. I'm a veteran, and veterans, dogs mean a lot to a lot of veterans, and so it's a service dog for a veteran that Andy was able to get, and he got Alma, after having the heart attack, right? So Andy got out of the military, got COVID, unfortunately, had a heart attack, and then was able to get Alma, and she's saved his life, to be
Yeah.
honest. And you can pick up from there.
She's so unique in so many ways. Number one, she's a Belgian Malinois. I've never seen a Malinois this calm. They're usually super hyper, all over the place. But she's the calmest dog I've ever had. The other unique thing is she's a hero. She was in Iraq for 6 years, so she was a
Wow.
bomb detection dog. And the way we met, the way that I wasn't even supposed to get her. I was supposed to get another dog, and at the last minute, I was literally at the place to pick this dog up. And I hear the lady on the phone, and she's talking to somebody, and it just piqued my interest, and I had to interrupt, and I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting, but it sounds an awful lot like you're talking about my dog." And she said, "Yeah, I've got the dog's handler on the phone from overseas, and he just got out of the military, and he wants the dog back." It was a no-brainer. Absolutely. That dog and that handler deserve to be together. So you wouldn't know it from tonight, but I'm not usually an emotional person. But I had a breakdown, and she came up to me, and we bonded instantly. In fact, my buddy that was with me, he was a canine handler in the military for decades, and he even said, I've never seen a dog take to anyone like that ever. And we are inseparable. She goes everywhere. I can't take a crap by myself. And I figure that's fair because I watch her poop. She may as well watch me poop, But she's old. She'll be 12 in April,
Yeah.
but she's in great health. So I'm just trying to enjoy the time I have with her.
That's right. And
Yeah.
and I think that like one of the things, because having Shimp as my first adult dog, looking back, like when I first got him, I think I feel guilty sometimes because I think, oh wow, I might have not had done some of the things that I should have done, like leaving him at home to go here or there, or not taking it everywhere at first in the beginning when he was younger to a certain point. And so it's kind of like with your children. It's like, you get them, you raise them, and then you look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done this different, and I should have did this way, and things like that. And so I definitely understand like that part of like just wanting to spend the time and to be, with them and everything, like as much as you can, because I mean, in reality, it's like, they can't just walk out the door and go to the things like we do, so
Yeah.
like we're their world, and whether it's a whole family or whether it's this one-on-one with them, like they need us to do everything for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's just amazing. It's amazing what dogs can do for you. Totally amazing what
And I
dogs
have
can do for
to
you.
say real quick, I'm sorry, Matt, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off,
no,
but I
you're good.
thank you both for your service because, that's one, I have so much appreciation for our veterans in our military, but also coming home and after having served. And, a lot of times when our servicemen come home and, especially when they've been in the active war situations or if they've had injuries from being in active war and stuff, it's like to see that even with their pets and their dogs and stuff and the things that they can do to heal them, like
Yeah.
that alone is just so there. Like, it's so therapeutic to have a dog that
Yeah.
can heal you in those things and to help, because they are so calming. And, and actually probably within like the last 4 or 5 years, I had went to a funeral for a friend of ours brother, and it was the first time that I was at a funeral home where I was sitting there and this dog came up and just sat beside me, and it didn't want to leave my side. And I didn't realize it at first, but it was actually a dog that the funeral home brings in there to help
Oh,
when people are mourning and to have them. And I thought, wow, that's just such an amazing
yeah.
opportunity to use dogs to help, people in those moments as well.
Yeah. Uh, Alma did an amazing thing. We had Convene 23 last year, and one of the speakers that got up on the stage and spoke, and Doc was there with her, and one of the speakers that got up and on the stage and spoke is very emotional, and a lot of stress. And no kidding, when she came off the stage, Alma went over to her. It was really cool to
Mm,
witness and see that she picked it. She didn't do it to anybody else, right?
yeah,
But she did it to her, because she felt what was going on and that stress and anxiety at the moment, which is it's great. And I just that's the wonderful thing, I believe Patty Moeller, who was on is on this Tuesday night call a lot, but she's a therapist and she has a dog and that stays in the therapy room and all that, and just a wonderful, calm, great dog. So I'm all for therapy dogs. They help reduce stress, anxiety, and they can sense it, and they can it's proven, it's scientific, that it changes your blood pressure, everything. The
absolutely.
dog skin, which is really really awesome to me.
It
Um,
changes your blood pressure, especially when they have an accident in the room too. If you know what I mean.
it can go the other way,
Right.
right? Now,
Are your socks and everything else?
yeah, Tammy, have you gotten another dog?
We did. So when I lost Shemp, I'm actually allergic to dogs and cats, and so when we had lost Shemp, my husband was like, "I'm just not ready. Like, we need to wait till the summertime." And we lost him in December, and
Yeah,
so he was like, "Well, we need to wait. We need to wait till the summer." And I was like, "No, I can't. Like, one, like my allergies, if I was to bring in a dog like that many months down, I wouldn't be able to like keep it." And so it was just so, when you lose a dog and it's your only pet in the house, the whole like your whole house is just like,
it's different. That's
your
what I'll say.
routines are all messed
Yeah,
up. You feel that loss, but it's like the
yeah,
quietness of what it does. And so we waited about 6 weeks. And the funny thing is that I knew I wanted another border collie. I didn't think I was going to get another border collie lab mix like what Shimp was. I don't know why I didn't think they were very much around, but we ended up getting a purebred border collie. And it was really funny because then I went through the guilt. I literally went through guilt at the thought of replacing, and it was like people had to keep saying, "You're not replacing your dog," like,
yeah,
and my dad went through a similar experience where he had a dog for like 20 years that he lost, that he was really close with. And
yeah,
he had gotten another dog since. But my dad told me, because it's the night that we lost him, we put him to sleep. And when like the lady took him, because we ended up choosing to getting cremated
yeah,
because one, he never liked to be in our backyard,
yeah,
and I knew we were going to move, and I'm like, I can't move and leave my dog. So
yeah,
we chose to get him cremated, and that was another whole thing too, because I'd never experienced that, and it was kind of like I felt guilty for even doing that. But it was so funny though, because when when I that night after the lady took him, and I'm like looking around and my dog's gone, and I'm like just like devastated. I'm in shock, and like I remember calling my dad, and I remember telling him like, I just need him back, Dad. Just I need him back, and you know, and I was like, I'll never love another dog. And my dad told me, he said, honey, you're gonna love another dog because another dog is gonna deserve to have a loving home like you gave Shemp.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, finally, about 6 weeks later, and it was weird because I had a dream about Shemp and a little puppy walking together, and it was kind of weird how everything played out because I was looking up German names for bears, and I was like looking up like little, like they had a couple that I thought was really cute, and so then a friend of mine reached out and she's like, hey, like I know someone that's got these puppies if you want one. And so my husband was like, absolutely not. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, just check it out. And so anyway, when I called them, they had one left and they weren't going to get rid of him. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. Well, then they called back and they're like, okay, well, we really want y'all to have him. And so I told my husband, I was like, look, we can get this dog, like, you know, and everything. And so he was about 2.5 hours away from where we live. So we drove up to go get him. And I had wanted to name him Finley before I even knew, like I was like, yes, just name him Finley. And my husband wanted to name him Blue. And I was like, I'm not calling my dog Blue. And so we decided Finley Blue. And so when we went to go get him, it was so funny because the owner made the comment that the reason why he wanted to keep him was he reminded him of a little bear. And so I was like, well, that's weird because I literally had on my phone like little names, like when I was thinking about like new names. And then when he handed us the paperwork for his first shots, it was at Blue Veterinary. And
Oh,
so it was like kind of funny how like little things kind of tied together to where we were like, okay, maybe this dog was just meant to come to us. And
yeah.
so he's a purebred border collie. He's 6 years old, just turned 6 years old in November, and we've had him since he was 8 weeks old.
Uh,
And it's funny because, you know, all breeds are different. And so, you know, like he's purebred, whereas Shimp is a purebred border and lab. And like they have similar traits, but different. And, you know, it's kind of like your children. Like, you know, the first one's great, easygoing, perfect. And then the second one, you're like, okay, this is a wild child. Like, what in the world is he doing? Because Finley is like, his own personality, and he's just it was different starting over, like, you know,
I'm
especially
gonna have to object here. Neither one of my children were great. Little hellions.
right.
yeah.
Well, but you know, it's funny though because when you're older and you start over, it's like a whole different thing. I told my husband, I'm like, look, I'm like, if anything happens to Finley, I'm like, we may not be able to handle another puppy. Like we might have
Yeah.
to get well behaved older dog. So
Well, so it's like being a grandparent, right? For me. So go to the next slide. So we haven't gotten a new dog. It's only a couple months, but we're not going to. But my son did, right?
yes.
So I'm a granddad to this dog here. This is Stu, and I'll tell you one thing that I love about Stu. Look at the picture on the left. That dog smiles in his pictures. That's
Yep.
the only one, but he is smiling, and you can't really see. And you can see Riley just put Stuart. That's my son's girlfriend, soon to be wife, but we're not yet. We're getting
Don't
there,
do
right,
it.
Riley?
Don't do it. Run.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, but that's Stuart, and I swear the dog is the happiest dog. Now, what you can't see in here is he's standing by his Riley's parents' dog. So he's literally by Riley's parents' dog, and he's smiling. It's like he's happy that he's sitting right there, which is awesome. And so this is actually New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, I got to babysit, and me and my wife got to babysit, and that we gave him a Christmas present. That's the little dragon that we gave him. So yeah, I get the best of all worlds. And so it's really awesome. Loving being around him. He's growing. He's cool. And yeah, but until we decide, my wife and I, if I'm being honest with you, we got married young. We had our son Braden young. And so we literally have had Braden or a dog for almost our whole marriage. We've been married 29 years, coming up on 29 years this year. We probably, since 27 years, we've had something there where we can't go. And Braden and Riley are down in Charlotte. My daughter Megan's up in medical school at Georgetown, and got Lainey over there in Chapel Hill. So we're able to go a little bit right now. And so it'd be very hard to have a puppy. And I'm a pilot, everybody knows that. And my wife's a nurse. So it'd be hard to have a puppy right now. So having Stuart there gives me my dog fix. Isn't that right, Riley? Mm-hmm. So, which is awesome. So yeah, you get the best of both worlds, and having a dog around is just, to me, is so important. It really is. Yeah.
And it's like so funny how even like, especially like with women, like when you're alone at night and stuff, like if I was to be home by myself, it was like I just felt that protection. I felt like that sense of not really being alone, even if it was just me and my dog there. So they're just amazing. So
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the future, when I have to get another dog, I will get two. They will be my home protection, and I'm going to name them Smith and Wesson.
That's right. That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I just love dogs. My brother has a great dog. His name's Joey. Love being around that dog too. So again, and my parents, I've had a dog really my whole life, but to the point of my dogs when I was young, I was never there.
Yeah.
When they passed away, I was never there. Even to the point of when I moved on and I've never been around one of my own dogs being put down until Cooper. Now I did work in that vet that time, and like I said, I lasted 1 week because I couldn't do it. I could not watch these dogs getting put down. It was so sad to me, and it tore me up. But yeah, go to the next slide here. Let's talk about this. So we're going to do some things with your book, right? First, let's talk about where can people get your book if they want to order it.
Yeah, so my book is actually sold on over 200 websites. It's like on Amazon UK, it's on Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and then there's if you Google it, it'll actually pull up the different websites and the different places that you can go to get it. And anyone can also reach out to me because I can also ship them out and send them out as well.
Yeah.
Do you have an audio version? I'm asking for a friend.
I do not. But I'm sure I could record it and send it out to someone. I'll be happy to do that.
He's talking about me because I'm so bad at reading. I listen to audiobooks all the time. So that's his friend that he's asking for.
Wow, way to tell on yourself.
Hey, that's all right. So we're going to create a group inside of Convene because I think this is important, right? I think it's important to create a group around pets and around our loved ones and our dogs, and to have people to, because I think what your book does and what your group will do is it'll allow people to come in, one, to celebrate their dogs, and celebrate their animals. It's not all about the end of life, at the end of life for the animals, but I've told you one of the best things that we do inside of Convene is do book reviews and do book clubs and do things like that. And I think that your book is going to lend to something special for people who are going through it. I thought it was amazing that we became friends really, when Cooper was already going through it, so we were actually able to talk about it. And, we talked a lot about it a good bit, what was going on about, the transition of having to go through losing him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is that, it's not just about, going through the experience of losing them. I think that just as a whole, looking back, I just think about all the good things that they teach you and all the things that they do to kind of take your life and bring it to the special moments and stuff in life and the things that, the pets can do for you. So I think that just in general, I think that was the one thing that I felt was people would say to me, why are you grieving your pet so much? Like it's just a dog, or, dogs don't go to heaven. Like these are the things that like people would say. And I'm
Really?
thinking, like to myself, like, why would you say that? Like, because they're not just because it's a dog doesn't mean you don't have a special bond with it. And, and I think like one of the things for me was like, when we lose our loved ones, we have a funeral, we get that closure to say goodbye. But, most of the time when people lose their pets, you just kind of like, oh, like my pet passed away, and people are
Yeah.
like, oh, sorry about it. But, it's never that complete closure to kind of like gather or to be able to celebrate, because society makes you feel like that just because it's your pet, you're not supposed to, grieve that much because it was a pet versus a person.
Yeah. And Riley just wrote the Rainbow Bridge. Do you know about the Rainbow Bridge?
I do not. Is that
That's in San Francisco. Oh wait, sorry, different bridge.
um,
Sorry.
Riley, write a little summary of the Rainbow Bridge, if you don't mind, because it's a pretty special thing. It's if I'm right, it's a poem, right?
okay?
And it talks about your pets and all that. And yeah, I remember reading it. I can't quite remember everything about it, but yeah, I just again, pets are special, and I think this group we're going to create for you inside of Convene is going to be a great gathering place for people with pets. And go
I
ahead,
think
Josh.
the individuals that say that dogs don't go to heaven,
Mhm.
they're probably your ultra right wing I hate Disney people, and they've never seen the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven. Come on,
Right.
Yeah,
come on.
you know, and it's it's kind of like it's kind of like and for me it's like I feel sorry for the people that have never experienced the love of a pet to where you hurt so much when you lose them, because I feel like it's kind of like, as hard as it was, I still chose to do it again with this next one. And
yeah,
even though each one you gain more knowledge on things, or you might gain more experience with what you're going to have to go through, but each one, they're special, and there's a different bond that you have with them. And so for me personally, as hard as it is, I don't think I'll ever be one of those people that will be like, I can't do it again,
yeah,
because the things that I get from having the pet is far greater than what I would get from not wanting to feel the pain again.
yeah. Absolutely. Well, the Rainbow Bridge, I just looked up. It is a poem. Everybody go look it up and check that out. But it'll be great. So we're up at the top of the hour. I appreciate you coming on. I think it's really good. I'm looking forward to getting your group up and running. Okay, here it is. Can you see the chat? All right.
Ken.
Yeah. There's a bridge connecting heaven and earth. It's called the Rainbow Bridge because of its many colors. Just on this side of the bridge is the land of the meadows and the hills and the grass, the valleys and the lush green. All right. That's all I got so far. But
Yeah.
there's
The
more to
end.
it. And it's talking about your animals, right?
Right.
Um, so look that up. And yeah, I'm glad you're here. And this has been a great interview. Looking forward to creating your group. Once we do, we'll put it out to everybody, and we'll get everybody in the group. If you got a pet, you need to become part of this group and all that. Let's celebrate our pets and be there as a support group for each other. And we'll do book clubs on your thing, on your book and all that. We're going to break it down in the chapters and everything like that. So it's going to be good. So Tammy, thanks for being on.
Matt, thank you, Andy. It was great meeting you.
You as well. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.